Welcome back, everyone, to my round 4 recap from the St. Louis Masters. I finished my game not too long ago, and this round I played Grandmaster Robby Kevlishvili, who lives in St. Louis, represents the Netherlands, and we had a very interesting game. As you can see, the game started with the Sicilian defense, so this is my second white of the day, and my second time playing e4 this tournament. And after knight f3, he played d6, and I played a tricky move order, not immediately going for an open Sicilian, but starting with knight to c3. And I didn't have much time to prepare for Robby before the game. He actually told me after the game he was only preparing against my London, which is one of the reasons why I decided to play e4. But I wanted to be a little bit sneaky in the opening, and one of the points of this move order is if black plays knight f6, which is the most played move, then there's a tricky line e5, and after takes, I don't think this line has a name, but it's something I've played before with good success. So he didn't play knight f6, he instead played pawn to a6, so maybe trying to transpose into a Najdorf, where if I play d4, takes, knight f6, this is the starting position of the Najdorf. But I didn't want to mess with that, and instead I played another kind of sideline, pawn to g3. Very simply, preparing to fianchetto my bishop, and then staying flexible whether I want to play d4 or maybe play d3 later on. He replied with knight c6. I play bishop g2. He plays g6. And at this point, I realized that if I want to play d4, this is my last chance to do so. If I castle, then after bishop g7, he gets very good control over the d4 square. So I decided to go into an open Sicilian. After d4, takes. This is not a typical open Sicilian. I'm not sure what we call this. It's resembling a dragon, but with a6 included. Maybe it's some kind of dragon dwarf. And I was actually pretty happy with the outcome of the opening because we got something fresh. It's not like my previous game where I played a 4-knight Scotch. This is already a pretty fresh position after 7 moves. So in this position, he played bishop to d7. Now, it may seem a little bit unusual that he didn't start with bishop g7, but there are some potential concerns for black where at some point, I'm not sure if I could do it right now, but there's takes, and e5, unleashing the bishop. I was calculating this during the game, like if d5, can I take, threatening the rook and threatening this? I don't think it works. There's bishop e6. There is an idea, like if I castle here, knight f6, and then e5, it could be a little bit worrisome for black. So bishop d7 was a move to try and ensure that I'm not getting tactics against c6. And after bishop d7, I castle. He plays bishop g7, and I play bishop e3. So it's nice harmonious development for white. All my minor pieces developed, I'm castled, and black is a little bit behind in development. So here he plays knight f6, and I play a pretty ambitious move, knight to d5. And I think this is a pretty typical move given the setup with the bishop on g2. I have the bishop pawn battery supporting the knight on d5. On top of that, because black has played a6, there's a weakness on b6. And I do have a tactical threat in this position. If black's not careful, let's say he wastes a move, then I can take, and whatever takes back, I have bishop b6 followed by knight c7. So he has to be very careful here. And if he takes on d5, which he didn't do, I would be happy to get a pawn to d5 with e-file now half open. And I think this would be a very good transformation for white. Another move that looks interesting, but he didn't play is knight g4. And there's a funny line. After knight g4, I would take on c6. He could take, counterattacking my queen. We could trade queens. And then we have our knights in each other's territory. But in this position, I have knight c7 to win material. After takes, white is going to be up the exchange. So he played a safe move in this position, rook to b8, ensuring that my tactics don't really work if I take and then take the b6 square as cover. There's no bishop b6. So after rook b8, I played pawn to c3, solid move, reinforcing d4. He castled, and I played pawn to h3. So I was feeling very comfortable, very solid. h3 is just a simple improving move, ensuring there's no knight g4 at any point. And going forward, he plays rook e8, I play rook e1, and he plays knight to a5. And around this point, I was feeling like I should have the advantage. I mean, I have good center. Knight a5 looks a little bit loose. He does have ideas of knight c4. And at this point, I was considering, I think, primarily two candidate moves. b3 was one consideration, just simply preventing knight c4. But the move I chose in the game was bishop to g5, maybe a more energetic move, pressuring the knight on f6, ensuring that knight c4 does not hit my bishop, and trying to transform the position in my favor. After bishop g5, I am probably threatening to take and then eventually double black's pawns. If pawn takes back, then the structure is ruined. d6 could be a weakness, and if takes, it's a very similar case with a weak pawn on d6. And I was trying to provoke knight takes d5, after which I would be very happy with the half-open e-file and some pressure against e7. So after bishop g5, he told me after the game he felt pretty much forced to play his next move, pawn e6, which leads to some trades after takes. And yeah, the position simplifies a little bit. At this point, I was still feeling good. And I think this is probably the most important decision of the game on my part, because black does have the weak pawn on d6. After e6, this pawn cannot go backwards. And I had a choice in this position. Do I try and pressure on the d-file? There's a move here, I think knight c2 to unleash the queen, maybe even queen d3 first, and eventually rook d1, knight c2, and try and target the d pawn long term. I didn't go for that because I saw what I thought is a more attractive option, which is actually to trade off the pawn by playing pawn e5. And I thought this was a nice positional decision. I didn't want to give black the chance to play pawn e5 himself, which would block my pawn on e4, which blocks my bishop. And I thought after pawn e5, even though I'm trading off e for d pawn, my bishop's going to be much happier. And there's a relatively forcing sequence here. After he takes back, I play knight f3, attacking the bishop and attacking the pawn. And after rook d8, I take the pawn. And I thought I should be a little bit better here. But as we're going to see, he's able to essentially neutralize my active play, starting with bishop c6, attacking my queen, offering the trade of bishops. I play queen e2, we trade bishops, and I had calculated to this position when I played e5, and I thought my chances look pretty good. My knight is centralized, black's knight is sidelined. I might be threatening knight g4 here. Like if black's not careful and I get in knight g4, then there's some issues with, first of all, queen f5, knight h6 is a fork. If the queen goes back, there's ideas of queen e5 invading on the dark squares. But he's just in time to offer the trade of knights, and knight g4 is just not effective because the queen retreats and I don't have queen e5. So after knight c6, I trade thinking that I have the better pawn structure. His pawns are isolated on the queen side. I have one healthy pawn island, but at the same time, his rooks are well placed on the open file and half open file. b2 is a source of counterplay for black, and it wasn't easy to figure out if I can actually play for much of an edge here. I started with the move rook a d1, challenging the d-file. And then he played a very solid move, rook d5, ensuring that if I take on d5, then he can fix his structure. And there's still some pressure on b2. Like if I take on a6, this is not a good trade because his rook comes in, f2 is a target. So I played solidly, played b3, allowing queen takes c3, but we trade pawns. And I still had some hope of exploiting his potentially weak pawn on c6, but after rook bd8, it's not really feasible to play for much of an edge. And the game ended with repetition after rook c1, queen b2, rook b1, and I keep attacking his queen, and we agreed to a draw in this position. And I think Stockfish confirms that at this point it is equal. And yeah, it was a pretty peaceful game. I'm relatively pleased with the results, especially drawing two higher rated players today. This puts me at 2 out of 4 in the tournament standings, and I can't really complain. I think there was a small chance in this game. I did check very briefly with Engine earlier. If we just, I'll go ahead and show the Engine analysis, but I was alluding to the fact that in this position, Engine does give some plus for white. A best move would have been queen d3, not to trade off black's weak pawn, and then prepared this, probably eventually b3. And yeah, there is some edge for white, but it's nothing so big. So I think I'm going to end it there. Hope you guys learned a thing or two, and also hope you've been enjoying the recaps. If you have any questions, leave them below. Stay tuned for more recaps from this tournament. I'll see you guys soon.